Welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about our upcoming 3-week program that begins in the beginning of May, on the 5th of May. What we really want is to be here, breaking patterns of the past for living in a world and for awakening. And I want to say, there is really a big difference, and I'm sure you noticed already, there's a big difference between living in the patterns of the past, and there's a difference between following what really naturally arises out of our true nature in a moment, or in our true nature in a moment. And how do we know that difference? Because that difference is there before, during, and after awakening. We all know, hopefully by now, that awakening does not necessarily mean the end of the arising of the patterns of the past. So how do we know the difference, Well, an obvious realization is that when suffering is present, and most likely means we are following the patterns of the past. One other symptom that I want to speak more in detail about in the program is when we experience urgency to act in a certain way, even though the circumstances don't quite read as circumstances where urgency is needed. So much of the time our survival instinct kicks in and it tells us that this is really urgent and we really need to respond and we really need to deal with it in a certain way, even though there really is no need for that survival instinct in a moment. And that urgency, it can be so misleading, because there of course are times when urgency is needed. When something is really happening and we need to act in a moment, sure, of course, naturally. But so much of the time that urgency is a hidden symptom of the past. We think something really we need to act in a certain way, even though that is the urgency of the habit that we are just used to. We are used to following that. So that's why it's so important to have times in your life of quiet. I don't even want to say meditation, because sometimes meditation is misunderstood as something we have to do, but quiet time of rest in our true nature, time when we don't have too many things going on or not much going on at all, where we can really look inward. And when we can be curious, and that looking inward, has to become a habit. Because meditation in that sense, in the sense of resting in our true nature, is not just a 5, 10, 15, 20-minute habit. It's a 24/7 habit of looking, right? So suffering is one red flag, one, area where we can notice urgency, and that sense, that you have to, in a way, talk yourself out of something, or that you are not quite sharing, speaking, acknowledging within what's really happening in a moment. That's the power of habit also, right? When the habit takes over, it just kind of dismisses everything else, right? And it feels stronger and louder of a voice, and we want to go with that. However, in doing so, we are dismissing what else is present. As a matter of fact, that repetition is how patterns survive. And that's why one of the themes in this upcoming 3-week intensive is spiritual freedom, which you might know by now. I really make a distinction between awakening and freedom. And when I say spiritual freedom, I mean a true independence from the past. You know, patterns survive on repetition. Before, during, and after awakening, it doesn't matter, right? When patterns arise, when past arises, it is still possible to follow that, right? And when we follow that, and I say that without judgment, when we follow that, you know, we just reenact the past. We want to, you know, really grow that sensitivity and that stability of trusting the moment, trusting being here, trusting knowing what you really know in the moment, not dismissing questions or doubts or you know, not dismissing information that comes to you, that arises within you, and really becoming more and more sensitive to that. Because you know that information about how things really are, it is present. It is always present. We just don't always notice that. And even when we notice, we don't always follow that. So when we are not in the patterns of the past, we do experience peace. We do experience rest and relaxation. And that is really an inner experience. You know, because sometimes we look for the outward signs of that. You know, you look from the outside or on the outside, and you might not see any different, right? Anything different. The difference is within. You know, are you at rest? Are you suffering? And that's why, you know, I'm calling this 3-week program, which really is a continuation of everything we are doing. I'm calling it What We Really Want Is to Be Here, because that is the deepest, truest desire that we have. And in a moment, we don't want everything that we think, you know, we want, right? We just want to be here, because here there's all the information we need. And I'm going to be speaking more in detail about this, you know, and also about the true yes and no, and how that, you know, is so important for our ability to live what we know is true. So I'm very much looking forward to this time together. I want to invite you to join me. If you are new, if you have never been to my program, you can come for free for the first week. I'm really encouraging you to experience it, not just watch the video, but to come and experience it live, have an interaction where we can talk. And also, if you like these videos, please comment, please subscribe, please share. You know, that's the way these videos can be out there, helpful to more people. Again, I'm very much looking forward to our time together, and I'm inviting you to join me.